What's poppin', my gamers? So this is the video you've been waiting for, unless you accidentally clicked on this somehow. But we're covering the Summer's Greed cheap tier list. I've already covered the expensive one, and I just wanted to go over a few things. I'm not gonna go over everything, that would take a whole day. I'll just go over the ones that I think need explaining. And side note, these do not include all the evolutions because I don't have time to evolve everything. I evolved one monster is going to be on the tier list. I'll explain more about them. And another thing is that just keep in mind, this is just my opinion. If you disagree with my opinion, then you can go. That is fine. Okay. But yeah, just there might be some things you disagree with, so just debate with the people in the comments below. Please leave me out of it. I'm probably not gonna touch the comment section because I know how bad it's gonna be today. There's gonna be a lot of controversial choices on here. Again, I tried to make this as general as I can be, so like, while some of these are my opinion, there's a couple, I guess, that I think are debatable on here that I would change maybe, but I tried to make this as, so that's not just my tier list and more the community's tier list. Again, it's not going to fit everyone's interest. Alright, enough of me talking. Let's go to S tier. Alright, so, Mighty. Things pretty self-explanatory. Buffs by, like, 3,000%. It's great for when you're starting out and you want to, you're upgrading your Slime King or your Furnace, whatever, Lightning. A lot of uses, and I would definitely recommend the as a it's a great monster. You do have to level him up though. He only goes up to 400, so I don't think he's gonna get too good. But yeah, alright, so next, Speedy. Speedy is almost as good as Mighty. I would still say Mighty's better just because Mighty has a lot more uses than Speedy. Again, Speedy can make monsters perma-slow and stuff, which is really good, and makes specials happen faster as well as their main attack, which is really good for monsters like Slime King or Felina, for example, and he's just really, really good. Hellhound is better than Mighty, but we're not including him on the tier list. If Hellhound was included, Mighty would probably be lower than Speedy, but since he's not, Speedy is lower than Mighty. Alright, Slime King. I don't think I need to explain this. Alright, Kevin. And I think I'll explain Kevin just because a lot of people don't have Kevin and they don't know if he's good or not. I saw someone in the comments section, shout out to who you are, I don't remember your name, sorry. I might check. I'll put it like something on the screen and it'll say like shout out to someone, I don't know. So about Kevin, he a lot of people think he's either like the best monster in the game or they think he's just okay. I want to mention something real quick. So one of his attacks does 1 damage, which is why you'll see 1 damage a lot. It's not a bug. His special's kind of weird. I'll explain that in a second. Hi, it's King Dirt from the future. I forgot to record why Kevin's special is so weird. So basically, I think it chooses ahead to do the 10x laser because it says it occasionally does that, and when it chooses the head, sometimes it chooses the 3rd head, which means it does 1 damage. Otherwise it's gonna do like a lot more than just 1 damage. I hope that explains that. He has the highest single target damage in the game, which means the highest damage that isn't a special attack. Well, the highest damage that attacks that if it only hits once. So like Archangels do more damage because they hit multiple times, right? But just okay, I think you get the point. But anyway, so Kevin, the problem with him is that he does a lot of damage, but the problem, he doesn't do splash damage. That's the main problem. He doesn't do splash damage, and unlike Slime King, he does not affect everything. Meaning if they get past his range, you're basically done. That said, his damage is like literally one of the best. It is the best in the game for single target damage, and his cost for what you get is just phenomenal. Not as good as Slime King. Slime King is still better, so just keep that in mind. Alright, moving on. We have Ash. Okay, so I see a lot of people. Ash is a little overrated in my opinion. Again, he can permastall, not that good at it. His damage is twice as much. His range is not that great though. And I'd say there's a lot of monsters that do a better job than him, just because when you have Ash, it's around the intermediate state. I guess you have already a couple other legendaries. He's not bad. Again, he's not bad at all by any means. But he's not, I don't want to say not great, but he just, his uses as a legendary monster are somewhat limited, which is kind of what Puffy struggles from too, I would say. Like, his range isn't great. His damage output's good, but it's kind of slow. He kind of falls into the Kevin problem. He's kind of a worse version than Kevin, but he can permastall, and his damage output is still really good. I know that one's gonna be a little controversial, but that's just my opinion. I could be wrong here, although I don't think I am, because I have the brain 3000 IQ. Moving on. Death Bite. Death Bite is only good because it's special. Do not upgrade him. Do not upgrade his main attack unless it's just for fun. All right, that's moving. Moving on. Puffy. Puffy special is really good. That's like the only thing that's good about it. Okay. Frostbite. Frostbite special is fine. It's standard. It's okay for legendary. There's no use of him if you already have permastalling monsters. And he's heavily outclassed by all the other legendaries. Like, probably the worst legendary. I don't know. Infernus. Infernus is he's pretty good. He's good for like when you don't have Slime King, when you're still trying to grind and beat Joint Revenge. You want to pair him with Mighty and Speedy, I'd say, because his special is pretty good, and his damage output, again, it's not like as good as a legendary, but his damage output is still pretty good, especially if you pair him with Mighty. You do want to pair him with Speedy though, also, just because his attack's pretty slow. Okay, so next on the list, Stacky. So Stacky is probably one of the better rares in the game. He does struggle with the fact that he doesn't do he doesn't freeze or do anything. His special's not helpful. He's just a damage monster, which isn't bad when you're starting out, but it's nothing special really. His attack speed is really good though. That is something that's good about him. So the Spiky, the hedgehog guy. Alright. Oh yeah, Slimy. So, this Slimy is obviously not, the regular Slimy. He would be like, I don't know, a little bit lower on the list if he was, if it was just regular Slimy. But Evolved Slimy does double the amount of damage. Double the amount of damage is, well, double, and I mean, that makes him a lot better than a lot of monsters on the list, just because of his attack speed, range, and, well, now damage when you evolve him. That's why I put him there. Okay, so, Yeti, I used to think he's better than Teddy. I realize he's not. His special isn't as good as I thought, and, yeah, he's just the worst version of Teddy, in most situations. Alright, Sluggy. So, Sluggy is really bad. First of all, his special doesn't do that much. Slowing down enemies actually isn't that important as stunning them, I would say, just because they're still moving when you slow them down. Plus, he takes up a space, you know, which is important since he does no damage. And for a monster that does no damage, his special needs to be a lot better. Talking to you, Devin, but, I mean, he's not usable, but there's really no time in the game when you would use it. Like, think about it. When would you ever use Sluggy over like any of the monsters above him? There is none. And there are worse monsters than him, don't get me wrong, but his use as a monster is limited. I mean, yeah, I could see him being worse than some of the monsters here, but you know, he does what he's meant to do, and that's it. Alright, well, Devin, this is probably the most controversial on my list. A lot of people think Devin is the worst monster in the game. I would disagree. And he's not great, by the way. Let me clear that out of the way. Well, the reason I feel like he's not the worst in the game is just because he's like, he does have uses. That's the thing. He does have uses. Like, if he hits a boss, great. Boom. They're down to 10% of their health. You know, maybe he's like your last line of defense, where at that point, it doesn't really matter what you have. And you just want to reduce the health of the enemies, and you can, you know, use them for really hard game modes. Although, I'd say Deathbite is just a better version of Devin that actually attacks. And now the problem with Devin, that was a voice crack. The problem with Devin is that, again, he's like Sluggy, takes up a space. He would be a lot better if he hit the bosses. If he hit the bosses, he'd be like 3 ranks higher. Unfortunately, he's just gonna hit those common enemies, and then they're just gonna die after like half a second, making him useless half the time, and he's pretty slow for what he does. It's kind of weird how slow he is. He should not be this slow. The fact that he doesn't even kill an enemy, just reduces their health, makes him a lot worse. I don't think at the state Devin's at, if he insta-killed an enemy, would be that OP. Just cause I mean, like, it'd be better, it'd be a lot better, but it wouldn't be, like, great, because, I mean, that's kind of already what he does. I mean, 10% of their health is nothing at that point. But yeah, so that's where Devin is. I do believe there are worse monsters than him, because he has more uses than a bunch of the monsters that are below him. Alright, so moving on. Fury. Okay, just the worst version of Teddy and Yeti, and really no point in using him except in the beginning game. The beginning game he's good. That's about it. Alright, moving on. Let's go to Hot Garbage. I don't think the rest of your team, E tier, needs any more explaining. So, Hot Garbage, we got Rocky and Grimy. I believe these are the worst monsters in the game. First of all, how the heck is Rocky in the same place that Fury is? He does like 10 more damage, which is not worth it at all. So, first of all, slower attack speed, right? Which, it's a lot slower. It's very slow compared to Fury's fast. And he's just the worst version of Fury. I don't understand what they were thinking with him. Some people might debate, people on the Discord, that again, my opinion, You can make your own tier list, all right? I'm not gonna tell you what's good or not. Well, I mean, I am, but it's like, who am I to say what you think is good? Okay, so Rocky, his stun is not worth it. I get it. If it's like, you know, kind of like Devin, where it's your last line of defense in that point, if you don't have any of the monsters on there, and I mean any of the monsters, right, then it's like the stun does something. Half the time he's not even going to be able to do the stun. For the record, that's how slow his attack speed is. He's going to be hitting like one enemy every like 10 seconds, and it's not even that long. And at that point, I would say it's just better if he has straight damage rather than just stuns. Stuns do not automatically mean they're better. Even the only time it would really mean that if you're like a very advanced player. But even then, by that point, you would not be using Rocky, and you know, it's like you would use Devin instead. You would not use Rocky or anything, and there would be no use in using Rocky. Fury already stuns, Clyde already stuns, and then the ones above him, you know, already do pretty good damage with a fast attack speed. I don't want to put them higher just because they can stun, first of all, because I think that's an inaccurate reflection of how good they actually are, which is why Sparky is so low, because his stun would actually be like in B tier. But overall, Sparky as a monster who does damage, or not B tier, probably like B or C, but overall as a monster that does damage, right, it's not that good. And so I believe he is the second worst monster in the game. Let's get on to the worst monster in the game. Alright, I think everyone figured this out at this point. It's Rocky. This is a bad monster. Sorry, this is the worst monster. First of all, damage, terrible. Attack speed, terrible. Range, terrible. Special, not good. Spiky does a better job. The special isn't actually even that useful, because it happens so, you know, slowly. And it's gonna affect like one enemy at a time, which is not worth it. And I think that's pretty reasonable to say Grimey's so bad, or that Grimey's the worst monster in the game. But anyway, tell me what you think. I'm gonna be avoiding the comment section like a plague now, because I know there's gonna be a lot of salty 12-year-olds in the comment section below. Not to make fun of you guys, but to make fun of you guys. Alright, so that's it. Bye.